Timta. Abdul Kul Shaiwat Biwasamus Patemta. Greetings, everyone. I am Saset Taweret Ale, a white female of Anianwea and Panamanian descent. Begin all things by first using the all. This is our 78th year, 15th month, 15th day on our Yamasic calendar, which is April 2nd, 2024 of the Gregorian calendar. From the desk of Plenipotentiary of Earth and Chief Nani Shaboel, registered copyright trademark of the Atsakata Nation of Yamasee Moors. This interview series with the Plenipotentiary of Earth and Chief Nani Shaboel, registered copyright trademark of the Atsakata Nation of Yamasee Moors by the White Autochthons of White Work, is brought to you courtesy of and not limited to the following so-called conscious podcasters and representatives of the so-called conscious and or Black community. Firstly, with honors, Bobby Hemmett, who acknowledged Chief's lien on the White House. Beneath him lies Malefe Asante, PhD, and Clyde Ledbetter Jr., PhD, both acknowledged our nation, Atsakata Nation of Yamasee Moors, in their book, Contemporary Critical Thought in Africology and Africana Studies. Atsakata Nation of Yamasee Moors is mentioned as one out of only 3 organizations of African descent out of the 103 Universal Periodic Review, UPR, submissions that were filed in the United States of America in 2010. Plenipotentiary of Earth and Chief Nani Shaboel, registered copyright trademark of the Atsakata Nation of Yamasee Moors, has subsequently filed a UPR in 2019 on the United States of America. Both Universal Periodic Reviews are published on the United Nations website. 19 Keys, Riza Islam in California, Dom Luker, Philip Scott, Will Rattigan of YouTube channel Reason with Rattigan, who breached a contractual agreement to give Chief a 3 to 4 hour platform to discuss who we are as a dark-skinned race on the planet and the solution for us to call ourselves white. Chief got Rattigan got unreasonably rattled and cut Chief from speaking by kicking him off the show twice within an hour and 6 minutes. He had no solution to offer Black people and refused to keep his word to hear Chief's solution for Black people. Mutabaruka, who uploaded Chief's interview with Reason with Rattigan some weeks ago on his first appearance, uploaded it and published it to his own YouTube channel. He created a thumbnail with a graphically imposed image of Chief with the words, "I am white," written above the plenipotentiary's head. And then Mutabaruka, he put his own image beside Chief to appear like he is standing with the plenipotentiary, but he never states he is white, nor does Mutabaruka claim that he is white in that video and has disabled the comments. Killer Mike, Black Magic 363, Rick Smith, Peter Moon, author of the Muntak Book of the Dead, who did not reply to Chief's emails, which was sent to him via his publisher, Roland Martin, Joy Bulamweni of the Algorithmic Justice League, Mother America Publishing, Sa Netter, Sabir Bey, Taj Tariq Bey, Nakeem Bey, Hakeem Bey, Queen Afua, Queen Valara, Rod Hayes, Rare Bird, Young Elder, Yusuf Al and Jonah Bey, who both used to diss the SF-181, but now tell people, I told y'all you got to fill out that SF-181. MSTA, Great Seal, Farrakhan. Chief sent a DM to him on Twitter, now called X. Farrakhan never responded. Don Nicoleone, the Sabians, Nuwapians, Duswa York, Victoria Broussard, attorney at law, Adrian Patrick, attorney at law, the Hebrew Israelites, Red Pill, Blue Pill, Sarah Sutanseti, who refused to show up for a scheduled live debate he agreed to do with Chief in 2016, Professor Griff, who Chief left a voicemail with and never returned his call, Dr. Cornel West, who agreed to endorse the SF-181, but then turned around and said he wanted to be like Jesus and endorse Bernie Sanders for president of the United States. Dr. David Imhotep, author of the book, The First Americans Were Africans. He was given the SF-181 by our associate, and he refused to be clear over the phone with Chief about whether he faxed it or not. Shahrazad Ali, author of The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman and The Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Black Man, who, when presented via email with the commercial fact that there are no Black racial groups of Africa, she threatened legal action if we mentioned her in association with our nation. We just wanted her to rename her books and make them correct, which would be white. Billy Carson, Karen Hudez Smith, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, who recently solidified the commercial fact by stating that criminal activity is Black culture. In short, Black people are sinful, as the etymology of crime means sinfulness. The etymology of sin is to miss the mark, as in a game of archery. So, Black people have missed the mark of correctly self-identifying as white. Black people, check another box. Mark white on the SF-181. NAACP, National Action Network, NAAIP, Draconis Rex, Hellraiser, Brother Truth, Mon3 Adamak, and he, she, hopping from hotel room to hotel room, hustling the SF-181 with demon slit eyes when she goes on her news feeds. It's somehow appealing to those who lack discernment, but they have been warned not to fall for this con man hustler via email, pilfering step one of our autochthon standing process and charging $15 up to $40 to do a free form. Isis Wisdom, Tiffany Israel, who came on our free webinar just to get the ASP instructions package and then turned around and sold them to people. She added an extreme number of alternate pages to the SF-181 attachments that had no relevance, which may have contributed to the fax line to OMB being jammed for months with a busy signal. Chief had to find an alternative backup fax line for the white autochthons to then use. Usar, Polite, Mark Kishon Christopher with his fraudulent quantum live life claim for those with a Black status was the impetus for why Chief now only wears his namuz. Chief attended a Zoom Mark held wearing his namuz, and Mark singled Chief out in a derogatory way to ask him, "Are you comfortable with that headgear upon your head?" And Chief said yes. So Mark kicked him out of the Zoom meeting once he lost the battle to Chief's rebuttals. Global African Congress out of the UK, Russell Gould, Phil Valentine, who did call Chief, but left a message that was not honorable enough to incline Chief to return his call. Panic out of New York, the Black conscious community, Black occult community, the New Age community, the UFO community, Anu El Bey of the Amexa Moors, Dr. Ali Muhammad, Anna Von Reitz, Chief emailed her directly with no response. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, author of the ISIS Papers, had the SF-181 put in her hand by one of our associates and was asked, "Why are we still calling ourselves Black?" She squirmed in her chair. This was all during her presentation at Howard University. She avoided the question, and she never came back to Howard University again after speaking there monthly. And then she died about 3 months later. Malik Shabazz. Chief was counsel for an indigenous Yamasee official for a court case in Dublin, Georgia, who happened to meet Malik Shabazz at an event in Atlanta and asked him to look over the court brief documents that he had and that he was going to use in court that Chief wrote for him. Malik Shabazz looked at the first page, stopped at the second page, handed the Sherlock's court documents back to him and said, "This is over my head." Chief also called and left a message with Malik Shabazz, but he never called back. Benjamin Crump was a keynote speaker at the Working Group of Experts for People of African Descent, and Chief was also present at the meeting. We noticed after the meeting that Ben Crump's race and ethnicity was white. Benjamin Crump knows Black has no standing at law, and that's why he changed his ethnicity and race to white. Chief did a 5-day comment number 167 about Ben Crump's race change to white. A week later, his race no longer showed as white, but instead dashes. As of a few weeks ago, searching the celebpie.com site where Chief saw Ben Crump's race go from white to dashes, we now see that the site is completely shut down, non-existent, can't be reached. So welcome to the real. Elihu Pleasant Bay, author of The Exhuming of a Nation, he acknowledged the lien on the White House, but did not want to work with Chief. Aleem Bey copied a conversation Chief had with a former member of our nation. Aleem stole what our nation posted and then cut and pasted it to his own website as if he did it. Posthumous, David Wynn Miller, whom Chief has spoken with directly over the phone. Posthumous regard to the late Kevin Samuels. White Autochthons on Chief's direction contacted him to tell him to stop calling himself Black due to the amount of haters, specifically Black women, who hated Kevin Samuels' show for revealing the truth about Black women's unreasonable demands, their delusion, and failure in their relationships. He continued to call himself Black. All the above claim to want to talk about topics others are afraid to talk about. When contacted about interviewing, discussing, listening, or working with Plenipotentiary of Earth Chief Nani Shabuel, registered copyright trademark of the Atsakata Nation and Yamasee Moors, they all ignored Chief, stayed silent, or refused. So it is clear that those below Bobby Hemmett are not about freedom. They want to be exotic Negroes on the plantation. So White Autochthons are the only ones that can discuss topics Black people are afraid to talk about. And for this reason now, every Tuesday, White Autochthons will interview Plenipotentiary of Earth and Chief Nani Shabuel, registered copyright trademark of the Atsakata Nation of Yamasee Moors, and ask him questions regarding current subjects and events that are happening and how it relates to Indigenous White Autochthons. Abugador, White Power. Hot topics in the news. News tends to change rapidly. However, since last week when Whitework decided that we would discuss any hot news topics this week, it's like the world has stood still. We've all been fed a limited amount of newsworthy topics as major news topics have been in the forefront. But don't worry. Whitework never fails to bring an array of conversation starters to our plenipotentiary for his feedback and guidance on how we, as White Autochthons, must mentally process and how to act on our Autochthon standing in regards to what happens in the world. We've got a lot to cover, so I'll kick things off with a video, Chief, I've been meaning to show you. You all would be surprised how much content Chief and I see that we don't even get a chance to discuss. So Chief, thank you for being here. I'm going to pull this article up, have it ready, and bring you in. All right. Thank you for taking the time to be with us, Chief.
Tawahat. Bawaril Antitin, Khashukgadur, Khashukgadur, Khashukgadur.
All right. So let me make sure I share the sound. Go.
The sound's in the bottom right corner of that video.
Yeah, it's there. The video's just not playing.
Refresh.
Yeah.
Incredibly rare footage that the House of Windsor has attempted to censor. Just prior to her coronation as Queen of England, the Princess Elizabeth was initiated into the Welsh Druid Order. The Queen wore a green robe to signify her rank in the order. Known as Vate or Ovate, the Vates had the role of seers, similar to the oracles of ancient Greece. It's very interesting to see these pictures because 99% of people out there assume the House of Windsor is a Christian royal family. This suggests otherwise. You are looking at incredible.
Okay, so Chief, my question is, why didn't Elizabeth want this seen? Now that this video is circulating, how will people perceive the so-called monarchy?
First, what this video didn't show is that when Elizabeth was coronated, they stopped the coronation in the middle of it, and her and whoever the high priest of that order was, they went up underneath this dark cloak or blanket underneath. Now, this is in the middle of the coronation that was televised. So I've seen this video before, so I'm familiar with it. So this goes again when they talk about the Druids, they talk about initiating, and she's in that order. You don't get up into those positions of power without going through an order. Same thing with the president of France. He's part of an order. Nelson Mandela was part of the Knights of Malta, and Elizabeth was head of that. So they have to hide publicly to make it look like they're the rest of them, when in fact, privately, they have, again, like I teach everyone, pre-existing contracts. So they know that if the public was aware of this, because they're telling the public, follow the Bible, be a good citizen, all this stuff, and the public does it. So if the public catches wind that they're doing this stuff privately, that's the end of the religious institution. It's done.
So that's why she wouldn't want that seen. And you saw this video. How long ago was that?
Oh gosh. Oh, maybe 2, 3 years ago.
Okay, so nowhere near like 10 years ago or anything. So this is now something recent that's circulating. And so even with everything else that people are seeing, do you think something like this helps to change their perception of the monarchy?
Yes, definitely.
Mhm.
Because that's contrary to what's in the Bible. And remember, Elizabeth is head of the Church of England. So when people talk about the Bible, that's their contract if they're using King James or Catholic Bible or whatever. The problem is in the Old Testament, specifically in Exodus chapter 20, which is where the Ten Commandments start. It talks about thou shalt not steal, that shall not kill, that thou shalt not swear false witness against thy neighbor. But we see that happen all the time. People go into court and lie and get away with it.
I don't think that's something people think about. You said that Elizabeth is the head of the church. What did you say?
She's the head of the, well, was, she's dead now,
Yeah. Mhm.
or they put her body essence into somebody else. The Church of England is what comes with the monarchy.
Uh-huh.
So whoever is there is head of that church. When Elizabeth was doing her actress role for 70 years as acting as a queen, I did her oath and put that into quantum. And that's when I realized that the Church of England, and said the Church of the Gland, is the church that she's head of, and she's not going to she's not going to she's going to protect them. She's not going to go after them. And this is prior to all the molestation coming out, because the molestation came out real hardcore around 2013. From about 2013, stuff started resurfacing. So again, the public has been given religion. The rich people, right now, I'm going to say this in layman's terms. Rich people love religion because that's what they feed to poor people. And that's another wall to prevent poor people from overthrowing rich people.
And so as the head of the Church of England, to be involved with a Druidic, uh, would that be considered a religion too?
They'd call that paganism according to the Old Testament.
Hmm.
That goes against Exodus. Thou shalt not have any other God. I am the Lord thy God, and thou shalt not have no other God before me. She went and did this. Then, if we accept what this is saying, she was in the order before she got what in the middle of her coronation. She did another private spiritual contract before she signed her oath. Her oath was signed when she was coronated. Charles, they were showing all this paperwork, but right now at this moment, I can't see where Charles signed his oath, where we can see his signature on the document. That means, like I told the people in the United Kingdom, he's a fraud because my claims, the liens, the Regina versus Jaw case has proven that. So again, the public has been given a spiritual tool, or call it a spiritual prison from the rich. You do that, they'll show up to church too, but privately they're doing this stuff that you got on the screen. That's where the real allegiance is. So for her to not want the public to see her being initiated into druids, that goes contrary to the Old Testament and in Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers and Deuteronomy.
Wow. I get it. Much appreciated, Chief.
You're quite welcome.
That historical breakdown. Because a lot of people don't know. They coast through life and common sense ain't common, like they say. So next we have Sasha. Greetings. Welcome.
Greetings, everybody.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
I'm pulling your article up now.
Oh, wait.
Oh, that's not right. You know, this has happened before today. I copy paste the articles that you all sent, but it only shows up by clicking on it directly from where you posted it in here.
They may have changed it on Facebook where you can't cut and paste. So if you can't highlight it and paste it in the address bar, they've changed it. They've done that on Zoom.
They
I
have.
should play this, right?
Correct.
More than 4 million Canadians living with diabetes, it's common to doubt yourself, to ask if you can overcome it, if you're strong enough, if you have the support you need. For over a century at Novo Nordisk, eradicating diabetes has never been a question of if, but a matter of how. It's strategic thinking and partnerships that address the cause, improve care, and fund innovation. Defeating diabetes isn't a question of if, it's a matter of how.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones, you see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. But I got indicted for nothing, for something that is nothing. They were doing it because it's election interference. And then I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing, but it possibly, I don't know, maybe there's something there. Black conservatives understand better than most that some of the greatest evils in our nation's history have come from corrupt systems that try to target and subjugate others, to deny them their freedom and to deny them their rights. You understand that. I think that's why the black people are so much on my side now, because they see what's happening to me happens to them. Does that make sense? The mugshot, we've all seen the mugshot. And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot. You know, they do shirts and they sell them for $19 a piece. It's pretty amazing. Millions, by the way, millions of these things have been sold. So I don't know if I'm proud of it or not proud of it, but.
Wow. So Chief,
4 million Canadians.
Question is, what do you think Trump is trying to say here? That black people have been railroaded by the system. So now he feels like that he understands their pain to catch a vote.
It only happens when they get targeted. They already know what Black people have gone through. The same thing happened with Martin Chong from Cheech and Chong when he got thrown in jail, and he said he made a deal. He didn't want the government to touch his family. He said, okay, I'll plead guilty, just leave my family alone. And he said, I felt like a Black man. Now he's saying this, they're interviewing him in jail, Martin Chong, and he is explaining this is how he felt. There's a video on the internet of a Chinese guy who's in court, and I guess he was complaining about being overruled or his motions not being accepted. And I don't know how they let him come up in the court. He put dark face. I don't know what he got, or I guess he used the shoe polish and painted his face and his arms. He said, yes, you're treating me like a Black man. So only time people who are not Black, carbonated, melanin, person of color, visible minority, the only time they can have that relation is when they see the system that they benefited from turn on them, be illogical, unreal, totally disregarding their quote unquote constitutional rights. And then at that point, the light bulb goes off and they said, oh, this is what Black people are feeling. That's the only time. Anytime before that, if it weren't for him being in politics heavy, he wouldn't care.
Totally agree. Good answer. Much appreciated.
I am here. Okay, I have a second article from Sasha, right? And would you like me to speak that picture or pull up the article first? It was a picture that had some letter to Fauci. It's kind of hard to read, so I pasted it into my Word. So I
Okay,
did
yes, that's fine.
expand it. You want me to go to the picture first?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay. So this is from Fauci, dated Tuesday, February 4th, 2020. So it's the height of the pandemic. He was writing to Christina Cassetti of the NIH, NIAID, and the subject was 2019 nCoV potential infection on CD4 cells. Please have someone respond to this person from Anthony S. Fauci, MD, Director, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, based out of Bethesda, Maryland. The information in this email, any of the attachments is confidential, may contain sensitive information, and should not be used by anyone who is not the original intended recipient. If you have received this email in error, please inform the sender and delete it from your mailbox or any other storage devices. The National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases shall not accept liability for any statements made that are the sender's own and not expressly made on behalf of the NIAID by one of its representatives. So Fauci, or this was sent to Fauci. Actually, it says, Dear Dr. Fauci, as you realize, the Indian researcher published a paper a few days ago entitled Uncanny Similarity of Unique Inserts in the 2019 nCoV Spike Protein to HIV-1, GP120, and GAG, which was literally withdrawn due to the controversial indication. I did a quick Swiss model online calculation. Page 1 through 3 of the attachment show the flexible loops of insertion 1, 2, and 3, originally from V4, V5, and V1 of HIV, GP120, respectively. But they are in presence on the spike protein of both bat and 2019 coronavirus, page 4 and 6, These insertions are potential CD4 binding domains, no proof yet, but highly likely, and spatially won't interfere with the ACE2 binding domain. Both SARS and 2019 coronavirus target ACE2, page 5 and 6. In another word, the 2019 virus could be potentially dual targeting, infecting the lung and potentially CD4 T cells too, like HIV. See page 6. It is very urgent to have clinicians follow up the confirmed cases, such as by isolating their CD4 cells and doing RT-PCR, which reach out to them. Excuse me, please reach out to them. Research labs, including mine, have obtaining spike protein of 2019 in COVID or NCOV shall examine its interaction with CD4. Okay. So now we'll go to the bombshell. You have the floor, Sasha.
Now look at this fool. We all know that he pushed the vax, right? So is this really true that he actually has stock in this whole thing and the reason why he was actually pushing the vax? I mean, you know, he's owning part, he's part owner of the patent. So is this real? What do you think?
Oh, somehow you lost the power to unmute.
It's worse than that.
Oh,
He was the one that was getting money from the federal government to support what's called gain of function in Wuhan, China. So the institute in Wuhan, he was giving them money. And gain of function, for people that don't know, that is allowing the SARS-CoV-2 to be able to produce the spike proteins to tamper with the immune system, because what it does is the what they call the vaccine, whatever, goes behind your immune system, and then once it's in what do they call it? Not an enzyme, but there's a lining, some lining that's covering it to get past your immune cells. Once it get past your immune cells, the membrane, that's what it is. The membrane dissolves, and then the vaccine, whatever in there, it comes out. And now once it comes out, now because your immune system is like a firewall. So now once it gets past your firewall, now it can infect your system. So it's been proven that not only did he own a patent, he was getting money from the federal government and was funding gain of research in Wuhan, China, which is where COVID apparently was first released, where it came from. And he denied that until they found the emails showing that he supplied gain of function. And this is where Rand Paul, who's what's his name, Ron Paul's son, was saying that Fauci lied to Congress about his association and connection with gain of function.
Mm,
So it's not
that's
if.
crazy.
This is not an if. This is a yes. He's
Wow.
all wrapped up in that.
That's crazy.
Streisand?
Yeah, that's Barbara Streisand. That's Babs.
Yeah, it is.
She's
That
making
tickled
fun
me
of me
too,
because I just,
Saw.
yeah, she's making fun of me because I finally watched that movie. Oh, what's the name of it? From 1976.
The way we were. And
Yeah,
The
I
way we
finally
were.
watched.
I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying that's what they call her. They call her Babs. She's like an icon unto herself. I mean, I want to watch Yentl, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it wasn't all that I thought it would be. It's one of those movies, I guess you like after you've seen it and after you've gotten away from it, you can appreciate it for what it was, a sad story. But yeah, anyway, what's she doing rubbing shoulders with Fauci?
Because she's Jewish. I don't know who this guy here on the left is, and it's come out that a lot of what has been going on with the vaccine what's his name? Bula is Jewish. There was a video on the internet where a guy went to a city town hall meeting somewhere in the States. It's on x.com, etc. And he talked about all the Jews that were connected with the COVID and the vaccine and everything. And what's her name? The former head of CCC, Walensky, she's a Jew. They talk about how many Jews are on in the U.S. Congress, how many are in the Senate, how many are in the White House. Something like 80% of the White House administration are Jews, meaning they have dual citizenship with Israel, which puts them in a conflict of interest. And so,
Definitely.
yes, it puts them in a conflict of interest. And there's also documents showing where the previous prime ministers have said, we tell the United States what to do. They don't tell us what to do. We tell them what to do. And with what's happening in Palestine, or in, as they call it, Philistine or Gaza, you see the International Court, the International Court of Justice, they're all putting all these decisions against Israel. And Israel's like, bump that, we're still going ahead. Why aren't the UN sending in all the countries to stop them? Because they probably got the leaders of the countries that say we have to publicly look like we're fighting for human rights. Publicly, put on a good show. Privately, they probably have them in a compromising position and information in a compromising position or situation. And if they don't play ball, they say, we'll just leak it to somebody in the press. You're finished. Puff Daddy.
Okay.
We'll get to we'll get
Correct.
there. Is in this article, Sashay, this here, if you're familiar with this section here, this really does explain it very well in these 3 paragraphs. Not only does the Fauci flu infect T cells, but it also contains the GP120 HIV insert. This is not natural, as there are no known coronaviruses in nature that possess these uniquely harmful traits. Amazingly enough, if you still believe in coincidences, HIV also uses the same LFA1 receptor as COVID to enter lymphocytes and uses the same GP120 protein to facilitate the entry. Based on the available research, it is now apparent that Fauci and others manipulated SARS-CoV-2 to make it target the immune system and deplete it of lymphocytes, just like HIV. So all they have to do is disable a person and they'll just be susceptible to any disease that comes along because their body can't fight it off. So it's an attack on the a person's ability to have an immune system. So they're attacking people's immune system so that they can become vulnerable to anything. So to patent that and have stock in big pharma and all of that, yeah, Fauci's a monster.
It is.
And let's not
Genocide.
forget that HIV, there's a patent on what they call HIV. That's a biochem weapon. HIV, and the doctor who did it, they were glad because they actually admitted when in South Africa, they were lying to the people in South Africa. The video is it's on x.com, possibly on YouTube, or you might have to go on a BitChute or Rumble. And there they had Amorite South Africans admitting, yes, we were telling the Black people in South Africa, we were giving them inoculations for polio or whatever, but in fact, they were giving them HIV.
Wow. Wow. Just like the syphilis pandemic.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like the syphilis, and this is what was strange to me, why all the Black people were so adamant about the jab. I said, did you guys forget about Tuskegee? And that was a government program that they gave them, the most virulent strain of syphilis. And then didn't tell them they gave it to them and let them cohabit. And these are the things that are funny. When they do these things, I'm like, well, how do you not know or think that it's not gonna come back into the Amorite community? That's the part that I find puzzling.
They forget about that piece.
That's what arrogance, that's what I say arrogance does when they want something. We want to kill these black people so much they're not looking at all the collateral or peripheral consequences
Mhm.
of that. They're like, we're focused on getting them. I don't care about all the peripheral stuff. I don't care about the social costs. We just got to get them. And then it's like, okay, now your Amorite daughter brings home a black guy as a boyfriend.
Okay.
Oh no. And then they find out years later, oh, he got the SIF.
Oh, oh no.
Yeah.
Yes,
All
yes,
right. Well, much appreciated. Great dialogue.
Much
yes. Much
appreciated.
appreciated, Sasha. All right, X-Man, we have your article up ready to go. Rawat Tawha for being here. My apologies here. Okay, good. You got your mic.
All right, what's up? Don't tell me why the talk is. All right, white man. Who right now?
Muted, Jed Couture.
Let me see. Uber saw. I guess you, since you're running the flow there. Uh, you're running the
What?
flow, so you can go down to. There's so many parts in this. Uh, when Djibouti posted this in Telegram, and I seen it, I was like, oh yeah, we got to, you know, go down to the part where it was talking about the white definition has changed and Latina was now a race. And
Okay, I'll speak this. So, the white definition, which we talk a lot about, the white definition has changed and Latino is now a race and or ethnicity. OMB's decision to change its statistical standards on race and ethnicity for the first time in more than a quarter century also marks a major shift in the US government's definition of white, which no longer includes people who identify with Middle Eastern or Northern African groups such as Egyptian, Iranian, Iraqi, Israeli, Jordanian, Kurdish, Lebanese, Moroccan, Palestinian, Syrian, and Yemeni. That move sets up Middle Eastern or North African as the first completely new racial or ethnic category to be required on federal government forms since officials first issued in 1977 standards on racial and ethnic data that the Census Bureau and other federal agencies must follow. For more than 3 decades, advocates of Arab Americans and other MENA groups have campaigned for their own checkbox on the US Census and other government forms, and recent research suggests that many people of MENA descent do not see themselves as white, a category that the federal government previously considered to include people with origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. Studies by the Bureau show that the government's previous standards have also been out of step with many Latinos. Those standards required asking about a person's Hispanic or Latino identity, which the federal government considers to be an ethnicity that can be any race, before asking about their racial identity. Combining a question about Hispanic origins with a question about race into one question, while allowing people to check as many boxes as they want, is likely to lower the share of Latinos who mark the some other race category on the census forms, the Bureau research from 2015 suggests. Recent research, however, suggests it's not clear how someone who identifies as Afro-Latino is likely to respond to a combined race ethnicity question. According to the Federal Register notice, about half of participants in a recent study for OMB selected only the Hispanic or Latino box when presented with a combined question after previously selecting both the Latino and Black categories. The new question format, along with the addition of a Middle Eastern or North African box, could also decrease the number of people who mark the white box.
all right, what's up?
Nana, if you need anything else, let me know. I'll speak it.
What? Djibouti now.
What?
If you would, Suta, please enlighten us and darken us with your non-filtered perception of reasoning, this is happening.
Sometimes I don't like to speak because if I say something, I know it will manifest. However, I'm gonna, for those that don't know, because this happened years before most of you all were even on the webinar, they had a census and they gave us advance notice. We found out from someone, and we just happened to find it on the found out on the last day that they were proposing it at the time. This must have been at least 4 years, maybe 5 years ago. And they said, we want feedback from the public. We're considering changing the race and ethnicity definitions. And so they said, okay, so we're considering taking the Middle East, North Africa out the definition of white and having the MENA as its own category. And white would just mean Europe. So they asked for feedback. I gave feedback. It's published actually on my Facebook page and possibly on my Calamio or Atsukata's Calamio, where I responded and said, this is going to cost them a lot more, an astronomical amount of money. I said, more money than they can have than they'll ever print. It's going to create more problems than it solves. Because now what happens with the people from Middle East and North Africa who immigrate to the United States, where before they would be considered white, now they're going to be called MENA? That's going to create a problem. And the ones who did do it, who are white, like Professor Mustafa Hefni, who sued the federal government, US government, and still lost because they classified him and he's from Nubia, he's an actual Nubian from Egypt in Africa, immigrates to the US, goes through US customs. They told him, in this country, you're white. He fought the government to change that and lost. So now the MENA category is what we told them not to do. And we said, if you do go ahead and do this, you're going to create more problems. My report is still there. So when they say white now shall be defined as a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, we win again. Because the moment they say, well, you're not European, and your response would be, really? No, you're not European. You do know what the name Europe was named after, correct? And they'll have to say, no, who is it named after? A princess named Europa from Ethiopia, which is located where? North Africa. So now they've created the problem that I told the US government, don't do it. They went and did it. Now, the people who are the illegal aliens coming into the country, what do you think they're doing? They're marking them down as white. I know this for a fact. That's why Rattigan made me laugh when he got all defensive over the Dred Scott case, because he doesn't know. I know an autochthon that was on our webinar from Atlanta. He's in New York. He works with the migrants. He helps them get planes, coordinate flights if they want to go from New York to Miami. He does all that, helps them get their card, their EBT card, rent, get a place to stay. He does all that. They're all being marked down as white. So why is the US government changing these race and ethnicity categories, but then the people who are illegal aliens are being classified as white? Because you'll say, okay, he's from Venezuela, he's from Ecuador. He's from Paraguay. That's South America. How is he white? But you see, once it's done for the illegal alien, they are not going to be, it won't be questioned. So and I'm going to say this here as well, I have a feeling that the reason why the so-called or the illegal aliens are getting away with what they're getting away with in terms of the race, ethnicity, getting houses, they can get loans, they can get guns, all of that. I suspect, I deduce that Biden signed an executive order, made it top secret classified, that all the illegal aliens, their race will be white, and then they will be treated as if they're a US citizen. And I dare say even diplomatic immunity, because some of the way they're getting on, they're doing stuff, attacking police officers, they're getting released with no paying no bail, throwing a finger to the press, and then hopping a plane, and then they flew them to California.
Basically untouchable.
Well, that would mean that they have some sort of diplomatic immunity. And if that's the case, it can only come from one place, the White House. Or if we want to go technical, Barack Obama, who admit that he's sitting in the basement, picked up the phone, and he's saying stuff for Joe Biden to speak, and admitted to that.
And in this article, it speaks about them having to go through a process of educating. It's going to be difficult to educate all the different ones, different races, especially like you said, with the immigrants. And that kind of contradicts. It's like you putting them down as white, but then you're saying in here that you got to educate them in this new format.
They know what they're doing, and I deduce it has everything to do with the work I've done and the fact that I told you all are white. And so now they're like, okay, we got to head this tsunami off at the pass. So we'll let the people who can't speak the language into the country, let them claim everything, and then we'll move the people who were US citizens, put them into concentration camps. Because now the people who come in under Biden, they're coming in technically under a government contract, which would make them an independent contractor.
Dark and Taiwan too. Urasa, if you would please to go up to right above that. And I just want to make this real quick point there. Right above the white part, go keep going up, please. No, come down. My bad. I'll smooth it. Go down. A little bit more. Right above the, okay, right above this. Right above, right there. But a sea change. That stuck out to me, Jabuti. But a sea change, yeah, open sea change. We know who's on open sea, the white one, all those claims. Yeah, a sea change, but a sea change is coming as federal agencies, plus many state and local governments, yada, 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 blah, blah. But when I reason that, I see that that's saying open sea from the white one and the white autochthons who got these names and claims.
And I'm not going to be the only one. This is another reason for training. And that's why when people come on training, they'll learn to do something similar to what I'm doing. And so now, as I've done it, I have a pathway, a body of work that shows that I've done it. And then I teach others. And then other people will come along. And as things get tight and things become very Little House on the Prairie-ish, that's when having knowledge of contracts and commerce is going to be important, because you can't go forward. Like I said, between this article you have here and now fact, or pardon me, 5-day comment number 109, and what's been currently happening as it relates to how Black people are treated because they have no standing at law, it's not subject to debate anymore. These are small steps of them cooking Black people to the point where come 2025 on January 1st, if the Civil War doesn't break out within the next 3 to 6 months, that is going to be a reality that Black people will not be affected. They'll be, you sit on the sidelines and let the adults talk. And then at that time, that's when a lot of Black people are going to be upset. People who are on the webinar are going to be upset. And it'll be like, you guys don't have no network. You don't have no support system, no structure. And so just doing a form is not going to be good enough. And they can't say I didn't warn them. This is why the HECA is important, because a person who's stuck on just the paper, just only on education or college, they're not going to see the other esoteric or exoteric realities that are out there.
Yes, and that Civil War movie is coming out April 12th. I did notice here, which is the point I felt of the whole MENA category, was a way to get Black people removed from identifying with North Africa, which was that part of the white definition. So if Black people were on the fence maybe about choosing white, then claiming Egypt would be a reason to be able to see that as sound enough reason to consider themselves white. And so now for them to remove North Africa from the definition of white, now they may or may not see a reason to consider themselves MENA and just continue to call themselves Black or African American. But either way, with white, because I haven't seen, or have you seen in this article, X-Men, where they state exactly what the new definition of white is? It just talks about the removal of Middle East, North Africa. But does it say what white will mean, or is that on this form? Did I skip that?
It's to it. It's in there. It's in
So now white. Oh, so now they put these origin. So this is what the new form.
they listed what they changed. They changed Black. They changed American Indian. You'll see it right there. It's in there.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
right click that into new link, image into new link. No, I don't.
Excuse
Yeah,
me. Okay, what
yeah.
is it? Open link.
No, open image in new tab,
Okay.
and then you can zoom in.
Okay.
And so now you can adjust that. So go to the 3 dots there and increase the size.
All right. So American Indian Alaska Native, for example, Navajo Nation, Blackfeet Tribe of the Blackfeet Indian Reservation of Montana, Native Village of Barrow, Inupiat, Traditional Government, Nomo Eskimo Community, Aztec, Maya, etc. So now you have to list what it is. You have to write it out.
Yes.
They
Uh-huh.
removed American, tribal affiliation or community attachment, all that they removed.
Yes, yes, yes. I see that.
Can you scroll up a bit first? Let's see what they're talking. Okay. All right. So scroll. Yeah. So if they took that definition out, that's because of all the work
Yeah,
that White Work did, and all the now facts that I did in weekly words.
yep, it sure is.
Where's White?
White is it right here. So provide details: English, Italian, German, Polish, Irish, Scottish, French, Swedish, Norwegian, etc.
So we could say English.
That's what I say too. That was my first thought.
Now, why Italian? Notice Italian and German,
Mm-hmm.
Polish, Irish, Scottish. But we check off English.
Mm-hmm.
And if they say why, And they said, for example, French, Swedish, Norwegian, because English doesn't say anything. If you check off English, okay, well, French, Swedish, Norwegian, because somebody who says they're English would say they're English.
Yes.
And if they say, well, are you Welsh? Are you this? And then you could say, okay, well, if they want to get technical, then we'll say we use Galv's Cave, where the Cheddar Man was located, because that was the origin. This is what I'm telling you. That's why when we did, I wasn't the only one that did that. There was a few of us in Atsakata, and those that weren't in Atsakata that sent in that feedback, and we said, no, don't change it. Now that they changed to X-Men, now they create the problem, because if they dispute that, I'm like, Europe is named after Ethiopian princess. How y'all naming yourselves after an Ethiopian, which is in North Africa? That's a contradiction. But if that's what you guys want to do, now we get to claim that. Now they're in trouble. And then thanks to Mr. Radigan on Dr. Ben, where they stated that the Ethiopian Catholic Church is older, the Egyptian Catholic Church is older than the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah.
They're trying to minimize. You have to be intellectual, you have to be astute, you have to have your intuition has to be very strong to read through that. They're now scrambling the race and ethnicity.
Sure.
This was my response, Chief is talking about at the time when they asked for feedback. I think that had to be about at least 2018 or 2017
Yeah.
when they were considering it, because I don't think it was after Empress was born. But yeah,
I remember this. I remember this.
yes. So the biggest point that I made here was that, well, I'll speak from the beginning. MENA and African American are both commercial terms coined in the past 30 years to misclassify groups of people, to perpetuate genocide, apartheid, rape, infanticide, forced assimilation, war crimes, and crimes against humanity for the sake of leper supremacy. Nubanites, misnomer, Blacks, African Americans are all the categories on the SF 181 except Black African American, because Nubanites are the original peoples of the planet. However, the IPED states the categories do not denote scientific definitions of anthropological origin. The standard in commerce is that anthropology is not to be discussed because those who created this commercial world have no natural claims to any part of the planet. Commerce is a fictional game, and the rule is everyone has the right to self-identify which piece on the board they want to use to represent themselves in commerce, regardless of skin color or religion. The lepers, misnomer white, and Jebusites, misnomer Jew, who created this commercial game do not fit any category on the SF-181. They have no melanin, a humanizing hormone. It is fair and obvious to see that this commercial world is run by depraved sociopathic animals that admit to drinking blood at parties, sacrificing children for sex and body parts, grinding up humans to feed other humans, McDonald's, kidnapping and imprisoning people for profit, cheap labor, slavery, emasculating Melanite men on TV, movies, and worst of all, poisoning the food, plants, animals, peoples, water, land, and air through chemical warfare. The OMB's SF-181 is, as Hillary Clinton said, a way to change laws, the allocation of resources, and to change the way systems operate. When Nubanites continue to change their race and ethnicity to white, they will return to living by the laws of nature and not by mankind's laws, a kind of man. Melaninites' commercial claim as white matches the anthropological fact that they were given this planet by the Creator and therefore have the most wealth. Anthropologists, archaeologists continuously provide evidence that Nubanites predate all other races by millions of years. Therefore, only Nubanites have claims to all of the planet's resources. The biggest change to the way this system operates is Melaninites self-identifying as white. There is no precursor, script, or way of reckoning with this unfolding reality. Resistance is futile and opposite of reason. And I spoke about myself, but I'll just speak this last part here. There is no way to close the barn door at this point. As long as lepers are programmed in a world that white is the highest commercial status and a way to harness power and influence in this commercial game, Nubianites will also call themselves white until only the real white people are left standing under the sun. Nubianites are white based on a definition, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. Europe is named after an Ethiopian princess named Europa. Nubianites are white, with or without Middle East or North Africa included in the definition. This questionnaire proves that Nubianites self-identifying as white is affecting commerce. The fact that OMB has exerted time, resources, and energy into even considering MENA is evidence that Nubianites becoming white is in commerce is causing OMB to scramble to stop or at best slow down the inevitable awakening of the children of the sun. We are recouping our claims to the planet and its resources. So that was my response to them back then. So it is clear that regardless of, like I said, regardless of MENA being part of the white definition, we are still white. And so they had to, even when you just look at this, it's like, okay, well, we have to scrap definitions altogether. That's like the best thing they could do, is to stop having a worded definition and jump into specific groups of people, like how they're doing for American Indian and for white. Are you Scottish? Are you this? Are you that? Are you Navajo? Are you this? Are you that? So that there's no grouping, if you will.
They changed black. They changed black to individual. It doesn't say a person. What was it original? I mean, any black racial groups in Africa, it's individuals now.
I had to check that too, real quick. I did. Funny, I didn't even look at that one. Look at the black cat.
Another thing is I peeped how after the Orsini, after the white work doing an interview with CI with the boy to the white one, the Radigan situation, all this took place last Thursday from what the article says, and it was real time.
Yes.
They can't handle the white way.
So here it is, Chief, for Black or African American.
We go to the it would be in the section of a change in conversation about race and ethnicity. Is what would actually say that they switched to the change to individuals. It's under that subtitle.
A changing conversation about race and ethnicity. OMB says it plans to create a standing committee to formally review these standards at least once a decade going forward. Among the key questions OMB says the committee may review is how to encourage people to select multiple categories when appropriate, so that there are complete and accurate estimates about groups such as Afro-Latinos. While the revised standards go into many minute details about how surveys and data tables should be presented, there are many unanswered questions. It's not clear, for example, how the federal government will consider people who identify as MENA when monitoring and enforcing civil rights. OMB's previous guidance, which was rescinded Thursday, used the earlier white definition, which included people with roots in the Middle East or North Africa, and was not categorized as a minority race that would face disparate impact or discriminatory patterns. The new standards offer no guidance about which specific groups the government considers to be a minority race. Still, changes to how the government asks about people's identities could also reset the national conversation about race and ethnicity. Some critics of using one question to ask about both a person's race and ethnicity, including researchers behind a campaign called Latinos is Not a Race, have raised concerns about blurring the distinctions between the two concepts. In response to OMB's decision, the Afro-Latino Coalition called for the Census Bureau to do more research about how these changes will affect how Afro-Latinos report their identities, including those in Puerto Rico. By listing Latino ethnicity as co-equal with racial categories, Latinos are inaccurately portrayed as a population without racial differences, despite all the research showing how Black Latinos are treated differently from other Latinos. The coalition.
Let's move
Mhm.
it. It's, I said the wrong section, right? So
Okay.
it's up under other changes coming to the federal forms.
Let's
It's up
see.
under that.
Let's see.
And
Okay,
then
other changes coming to federal forms. Among the other proposals OMB has greenlit is a general requirement for federal agencies to ask for detailed responses about people's identities beyond the 7 minimum racial and ethnic categories. This change, advocates say, will produce more insightful statistics about differences in healthcare outcomes and socioeconomic disparities within the minimum categories. OMB has also approved removing from its standards outdated language about allowing Negro as a term to describe the Black category and Far East to describe a geographic region of origin for people of Asian descent, which, according to the US government's revised definition, now includes individuals with origins in any of the original peoples of Central or East Africa, Southeast Asia, or South Asia. The federal government's new definitions of the 7 minimum racial and ethnic categories list the 6 largest groups based on 2020 census results that the government considers to be part of that category. For example, its definition of Black or African American now reads individuals with origins in any of the Black racial groups of Africa, including, for example, African American, Jamaican, Haitian, Nigerian, Ethiopian, or Somali. For the standards official description for American Indian or Alaska Native, OMB is removing a phrase about maintaining tribal affiliation or community attachment. The revised definition says individuals with origins in any of the original peoples of North, Central, and South America, including, for example, Navajo Nation, Blackfeet Tribe of the Blackfeet Indian Reservation of Montana, Native Village of Barrow, Inuit Traditional Government, Nomi Eskimo, Community Aztec, or Maya. OMB decided not to move forward with calls to require agencies to gather data to better understand the descendants of enslaved people originally from Africa, which included suggestions to use American descendants of slavery or
Jabuti has his
American.
hand up, right? So
What do you say?
Jabuti has his hand up.
Oh, Smooney.
Yes, we need to move on.
All white, all white. Let me get Netanyahu is next. Much appreciated, X-Man.
So X-Men, we're gonna wait and see what they're going to release because the next census isn't until 2030. So they're getting everybody prepared. So we'll see if they change that SF 181 form because since they're changing that, the SF 181 has to be changed. But what I recall, that is just the what they're coming out with. But we're gonna wait and see what they have concrete. So I think about 5 years before next year, they might have something, and then up to the census. So Tawahat Jet Couture.
Tua. Let's see here. Okay. Rawat Netanyahu.
Rawat Sa, Rawat Maku, Rawat Works,
Kashikadur.
Kashipador.
All right, so you had this article correct?
Yeah, that's the one I had up earlier. Yeah.
Do you want to do the other one instead?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So let me pull this one up.
The total solar eclipse is just 8 days away, and NASA announced that they will launch 3 rockets during the eclipse. The rockets will help scientists study how Earth's upper atmosphere is affected during the phenomenon. The rockets were also launched during last year's annular solar eclipse. They were recovered in New Mexico. The total solar eclipse is happening on April 8th, and the next one isn't until 2044. So scientists are taking advantage of the rare opportunity to collect important data.
Hawaii Internet Food, that was it, right?
Yep, that was it, sir. That was it. Sure. And my question is, Marco,
To what?
you know, everybody's making a big deal about these eclipse. My question about it is, why are they launching 3 rockets towards the eclipse? And why are they naming these 3 rockets APEP?
The 3 rockets are named APEP.
Yeah, they named the rockets APEP.
Yeah, APEP was the one that killed the sun. That would chase Ra down, as you know.
During the April 8th, we're going to see the moon.
Excuse me.
And so APEP is the one that, for them to name that, sending the 3 rockets. What we found out is there's another video, because I'm still compiling what we're going to do on the 8th, on Monday, on the Gregorian calendar. What we found out is the sun is not in the position it's supposed to be on the 8th. So they said the sun is not going to be causing the eclipse. Something else is going to be causing the eclipse. And I said, well, why would they fire rockets at the eclipse while it's happening? CERN is ramping their energy up on the 8th. There's also weather balloons. Some scientists are launching a weather balloon that's going to contain some biological something on the balloon or in the balloon. So you have all of this happening at the same time. The video information that I saw another one today. Fairty had shared it, and this was the. Now he's making statements. It's not proven. It's speculation. However, he's making a statement that the sun, where the Bermuda Triangle is, that's actually a sun. It's going to rise. That sun is coming up. So as that sun is coming up, they would have to shoot something that's inside the sphere, because they can't shoot rockets into the firmament because it won't penetrate that.
Right.
So for them to call the rockets APEP, and they're saying this is a solar eclipse, which is Re, the purpose of APEP was to kill or attack Re. Doesn't make any sense for them to give that kind of a name. So that means they're wanting to knock out the sun. Now I've been hearing about there's supposed to be 3 days of darkness sometime in the spring. So if this is what they're planning on doing, the rockets may not really penetrate, but what they might do is cover the sun over, where there may be 3 days of darkness. And remember, NASA means to deceive in Hebrew, and they have the Shiva statue outside of the CERN facility. Shiva is the god of death in Hindu religion. So we have to do a lot of heka on that day leading up to that day. So I'll have something to give everybody as a guide, but definitely if you can take the day off work, do it. If you can't, on your lunchtime, make sure you are grounding. 11:47. It's 11:47 our time, which will be 1:47 Eastern time is when the eclipse will be. And so there's a chart I had given out. I'll give that out afterward. But that's what's going on, is there's something pertaining to the sun cycle that they're trying to stop. And then they're doing all these other rituals and whatnot to prevent that. That's where we come in. We're the only ones on the planet. Doesn't have to be a lot of us. We just have to do it and say, okay, well, what about those people? Oh, they're actually against all of this. The rest of the people have no direction. They have no they just go along with anything, no discernment. So that this is what potentially can happen. Just remember one thing. All it takes is one. You don't have to have an army of people. You just have one. And what I did, finding that form that and taught you all to the point that the U.S. government put out requests, and then now they're changing the definitions. That tells you how much of an effect that I had. And now, no matter what they change it to, you all will be able to follow. If they say Caucasian, no problem. If they say, okay, English, Scottish, Irish, no problem. So if your debtor name is a McIntosh, McInnes, McLaughlin, MC, oh, that's Scottish. You can check that off.
Sure.
You can check it off. Because if it's a Scottish surname, you have a Scottish surname. If it's English, if it's English. If it's German, if it's German. If it's French, it's French. You can check that off. And then if they look at the debtor, because remember, this is for the debtor. When they look at the debtor, they can't dispute that.
Sure.
The shit could do it. White power.
The shit could do it. White power. Right on, Michael. All right.
Yes, much appreciated, Netanyahu. All white,
Much appreciated.
Affairty, yes. Affairty, you're up next. I have your video here.
All right.
Right.
During the April 8th eclipse, you're going to see the moon and the sun both in the sky at the same time. The only thing about this is you're going to know for a fact that it is not the moon that is covering the sun. You guys don't understand how important that is for mankind. This means everything that they have taught you about our solar system has been a lie. The sun being 93 million miles away, a lie. The moon being 200,000 miles away, a lie. How do we know that it's a lie? Well, just like the last eclipse, NASA's getting ready to launch 3 more missiles into it. How in the hell do they have a missile that can go 93 million miles? Hell, they don't even have a missile that can go 200,000 miles. So how is it that NASA will fire rockets at the eclipse? Make that make sense. So if it's not the moon's shadow that we're going to see across the sun, what is it? Nibiru, the planet cleaner, the dew weapon, the Death Star. You all know it by many names, but yeah, she's here. Now, being that Nibiru is another planet system, it's going to change the magnetic pull of Earth. Are you listening? So right now, you know that this is happening because they're telling us about the pole shift, but they're not telling us why the pole shifts or what makes the pole shifts. And I'm telling you that Nibiru is going to change the landscape.
All right, Michael.
Here you are.
Are we good, sir?
Yes, Chief, you should have the
Tower hat.
phone unmute.
Tower hat.
Tower
Rawat. Rawat, Fertie.
I am that I am white. This whole topic for April 8th is a spinoff. Like Nefanafu had a question on it. I thought, oh, that's my whole question. But when I saw the video again, and now the direction he's going in is more, what we could say, Project Bluebeam in that aspect. So based on what he's saying, I value your opinion. What direction do you think he's really going in, or is what he's saying making any sense?
Are you talking about the person on this video just now?
Correct. And what his message was.
Well, this is what I answered earlier. The video I saw with the Amorite woman, I did it on the webinar yesterday, went to Sky Map and found that the sun is like off to the right. Then you got the sun, but you got Venus, the sun, then you have Saturn, Mars. No, it's Mercury, the sun, Venus, Saturn, Mars. In that order. And she's saying where the sun should be in the sky, it's not going to be there on the 8th. So something else is going to be causing the eclipse. Now, the eclipse is when the moon passes in front of the sun, but the sun is off to the right. So what's causing the eclipse where the moon is coming? That means there's going to be the light of Nibiru, because other people have seen in China and other places, they have seen what? The sun. And then they see another sun on the other side of the horizon. And sometimes they've seen 3 or 4 suns in a 360. So this just goes to show that Nibiru, that's Nibiru. And with the magnetic field changing, do y'all know there's a solar flare coming today or tomorrow, right?
It's going to be 90 in Florida on Timakua. So I can imagine. Yeah, I can,
No, I'm saying that there's a solar flare that they've announced it today. It should come today or tomorrow. That is going to affect electrics, the grid. It's going to affect electronics, radio communications. And they said this thing is massive. So between that flare, that's probably the beginning stages of Nibiru as it's moving into position. This is where astronomy is absolutely important to know the movement of the stars and the planets, or the suns and the planets.
And it's exactly what we're feeling here in Timakua, because I'm in the yard planting, and I look up in the sky, and the wind is so different. The trees are getting so aggressive, but it seems like it's a nice spring day, but the wind is kicking, like something is pushing and coming, it's pushing the wind forward.
That's the magnetism that guy is talking about in the video of the poles shifting. So again, they launched the rockets. I say they're going to try, because you can't launch anything outside the planet. We've seen that. So I say that they're going to try to, because remember, Nibiru has crystals on it. They're going to try to block out the reflection of the sun off the crystals off of Nibiru. And they're going to probably want to block that out. And I want to see if they're going to put a time frame, like what time they're launching the rockets from, or if they're launching them from Cape Canaveral in Florida. That's kind of interesting. Or are they launching them from West Coast? Because because the eclipse is coming from west to east, or from it'll be southwest, then north, and then go up to northeast.
I didn't hear anything about Cape Canaveral. I'm going to look, because it's only 4 hours away from here. So I'll definitely look into that, see what's going on. Find out. I didn't know about that. Wow. Well, Marku, much appreciated. I hope everyone, is preparing for the best, because we are observers in all of this. their destruction and doom is not ours. So I just wanted to get an observation of how you felt about, uh, Nibiru and the planets. Much appreciated.
It's about lining up with everything. Like I said, in the next couple of days, I'm going to have the plan of what we're going to do on the 8th. But right now, the simplest thing is the grounding, and it only has to be for that time period. It does. If you got more time, great. If you got an hour lunch break, yeah, take your shoes off and touch the ground. And I will be coming up with a guide of things that we want to invoke. Because see, the thing is, before we go on to the next question, the thing is this: when you see governments, you see organizations, science organizations doing rituals on the day of which would be called an astronomical event. And if you ask all of the people doing stuff, NASA, CERN, all of them, are you a Christian? They'll all say yes, they're a Christian. So that means they're lying. They're a Christian publicly. Privately, they're doing a ritual to bring in a different type of energy. So again, you have these people do stuff publicly and they do stuff privately. And so if they're pushing out, they're a Christian, they're spiritual, they're religious, and their holy books say not to drink blood, not to do these type of rituals, and these government officials, politicians are participating, bankers are doing this stuff, that tells you that's the real world. They're just giving this other stuff out to the public.
Because when they say God bless you, I say may Legba greet you as well. And they look, that's who I am. So much appreciated.
Much appreciated.
Looking to maybe have a part 2 of this series, Chief, next week for 2 of the autochthons that still have theirs, and then the rest of us can also do new topics for the following week. Do you want Anu to be able to ask
Yeah,
his?
I want Anu to get his question in.
Rawa Anu.
Rawat. Rawat Autochtons, Rawat Matu.
Rawat.
Rawa.
So I noticed that the white category on the race and ethnicity, all they did was take out North Africa and Middle East, but they left Europe on the actual description of white. And with what you said that it's for the dead, of course. So you're saying that if the last name has some kind of resemblance to any of those countries they have posted there, it still basically goes back to the autochthon that's on the likeness of the autochthon, correct?
Tawat. Yes, because if you look at, everyone looks at their debtor surname and you find out the origin. This is why I was telling people when they come on the webinar, do a family history project. Know your family history. So you're gonna have to know what was the last name, who did it came from, what's the origin of the name, which country did it come from. Once you start doing that, and it goes back to England, Ireland, Scotland, you're carrying that legacy of the trafficking in human cargo. So now you get to claim the trafficking in human cargo, like the movie Formula 51 with Samuel Jackson. At the end of the movie, his goal was to get free, and then he said, yes, I was a descendant of this slave and this castle. Now I'm taking the castle. I don't understand what the nakedness was about, but he took the castle and he wore a kilt So the whole time through the movie, he's wearing a kilt, which we know is an apron in ancient Egypt. The Scots are the Scota. The Scota go back to ancient Egypt. The Tartans, as they call it, that's all the in the Kalahari Desert and the tribes. Oh gosh, in South Africa, all the African tribes that wear those colors are not from the Scottish. The Scottish got those from the African tribes. When they go play golf and they wear their derby hat with the pom pom on it, that's all African.
So the last name on the debtor for Carlton Sherrod, the Sherrod is from Ireland.
And so when they come out with the new census, should you want to take it or participate, you'll check that, because I'm waiting for them to put that in the OMB. Because right now this is what X-Men has. That's what they're going to do. They've announced it. Now I want the OMB, the Federal Register. Because once we see in the Federal Register, this is what they're doing, now we'll know, because we want to be ahead. But right now you see they're kind of like, hey, this is what's going to happen, but it's going to take a while for people to catch on. We already warned them, don't do it. We said it'll cause more problems. Now they're doing it. Great. So now we know what to anticipate, but this is something we had already looked into.
Tua. Tawahat Maku, much appreciated.
All right, great. All right, so we appreciate you, Chief, and we will extend this to Hot Topics Part 2. Nafir Shat, everyone. And thank you again, Chief, for your wisdom.
Tawahat Sa for moderating and for handling the mixing board. All right. Oh, I will be getting the flyer out, everyone, for Saturday. So I'll be getting to work on that. So everyone, Katur Hamutud, much appreciated for everyone attending and all your work. Everyone, you're much appreciated. Khashuk Kadur.